Yo, what's going on guys, HyperX here and welcome back to another Division video. It is the weekend, which of course means it is once again the vendor reset time. So I'm here to tell you guys what blueprints are for sale in the Dark Zone safe rooms, what weapons are for sale in the various vendors, in the base operations, terminal, underground, all that good stuff. So as always, if you do enjoy this, like would be super appreciated. Comment down below, let me know your thoughts. But also, if you guys missed my video that I uploaded the other day on some of the huge changes coming to the Division in 1.4, then definitely check it out. I will link it down below. Honestly, the future for this game is so bright. I know right now it's in a bit of a weird state, but hang tight until 1.4. Trust me, watch that video. There are some really good changes coming, and also that will hopefully have kind of a knock-on effect with these sort of videos, because one of the things they are going to be doing is balancing out high-end and gear set items, meaning that high-ends will once again be viable. So while they haven't expressly called that out, I am hoping that it has a positive effect on pretty much all the vendors that sell high-end gear, which is a lot of the time not that useful. So let's hope that has a good effect. But regardless, 1.4 is shaping up to be really good, so definitely check that out. But you guys are here for the reset, so let's get started. First up, of course, diving into DZ02. This week you have electronics knee pads, firearms backpack, electronics holster, and firearms mask. So nothing there, no chest pieces, no gloves, so not really anything worth your time. So let's move swiftly on to the weapons. This week your 229 weapon is a first wave PF45. Not great. The talents on this one are expert and predatory, so there's really no point even speaking about this one. It is expensive, it's not worth your time, and especially not considering you have to be DZ rank 90 to buy this. So yeah, ignore that completely this week. Moving down to the blueprints, you have a PX4 Storm Type T blueprint, and you also have a SOCOM MK20 SSR. Now when it comes to sidearms, generally speaking, the favourite now is the X45, so again, Storm Type T, not really worth it. And as for the SOCOM MK20 SSR marksman rifle, there are plenty of better options out there. So this is a simple, ignore it, move on, let's save your credits for another day. Especially when you consider, as mentioned before, I'm really only going to recommend things if they are absolutely outstanding right now, because 1.4 is scheduled for October. Not that far away in the grand scheme of things, so really I'm in a position where I'm just saving basically everything I have, because hopefully once they adjust things and whatnot, then there'll be things worth buying. Anyway, jumping into DZ04, we have a firearms gear mod blueprint and a performance gear mod blueprint. So firearms one, this is one of those things that is safe to buy now. If you don't have the level 32 firearms or stamina or electronics, then whenever you see them, you should buy them, because they are very good to have, and that's pretty much a safe thing to hang on to. Performance gear mods, don't even touch them, don't consider them until they at least think about doing something with them. Hopefully 1.4 they'll do some changes, maybe they'll take on board the kind of changes that I did in that suggestion video. So if they do that, that would be really cool. But for the time being, performance gear mods are an absolute no. So finally, DZ05, this is where you go to get your weapon mods. The first one is a handstop OD green blueprint, and the second is the vertical grip wolf grey blueprint. These have been around many times before, so generally speaking, if you have chosen not to pick them up, then you probably won't now. But if you haven't, then of course look at them, look at the weapons you're using, work out whether they are applicable, and then you can decide from there. So that's it for the Dark Zone. Now let's jump into the base of operations, speaking to the special gear vendor at the top. This week you have a Gear Squad 204, AUG A3 Power XS, and an MP5-ST. Now the AUG isn't that interesting, it's got Meticulous, Determined, and Adept, so not any kind of really exciting skills, especially for an SMG on there. However, if we jump over to the MP5-ST, which normally I wouldn't recommend simply because it's not the most powerful SMG model. PP19 is better, MP7 is better, there are of course plenty of better options out there. However, it does have some interesting skills. You have Determined, Predatory, and Self-Preserved. Now normally I would just straight roll out Predatory, try and get something slightly more applicable, but there is some kind of nice synergy between Predatory and Self-Preserved. Self-Preserved is a talent that I personally do quite like. I like having it on SMGs. You can actually get some great benefit from that, and especially if you're running something like an Alpha Bridge build and you can have it as, say, like your 4th, 5th, or 6th talent, then it can genuinely be a nice to have. But this isn't bad by a long shot. It's not that expensive, 630 Phoenix credits. So if maybe you're leveling up, perhaps you've moved over to PC, which is something that I'm doing in the background, and you are leveling up and maybe you need something as an interim weapon, this wouldn't actually be a bad thing to buy. It's not going to be the strongest in the world. It's not going to be something that necessarily means you can go into the Dark Zone and blitz through everything, but it's not a bad thing to have. So look at what you got, consider it maybe. But moving down to the terminal, we have a converted SMG9 and a tactical M249 Para. I hate the SMG9 just because it looks like a potato gun or a pea shooter. I've always hated it. It's also not a great SMG. And this week it has Deadly, Unforgiving, and Swift. Deadly is of course a nice talent to have, but beyond that, the other two not that great. So even with like recalibration, I really wouldn't recommend getting this one. So your other option is of course the tactical M249 Para, which has skilled. It also has restored and destructive. Now destructive is of course nice PvE. Skilled is one that I always say, if ever you can get a weapon with skilled, I don't really care what weapon it is, I always recommend carrying a weapon with skilled just on your person, because when you go and do high level activities, if you are in need of your signature skill, it's very, very easy to get it back using a skilled weapon. So even if it doesn't end up being your main, I always recommend something in your inventory, whatever weapon type it is, just make sure you have something that has skilled. That being said, don't jump to conclusions on this one because there is actually another option later in this video, so hang tight for that. Generally speaking, these two are not that interesting. And as for the other guy in the terminal, he has a performance gear mod, and we've already spoken about them, so no, no, and no. So lastly, Underground. This week there is a PP19 again. This one is your rank 40 weapon. PP19 is of course a very nice PvE SMG. Generally speaking, for PvP, people go to the MP7, but for PvE, this is nice. It has skilled, sustained, and hurried, so I just spoke about skilled. This would, if you're underground rank 40, this would be a good thing to go for, simply because if you're aiming for headshots and the rate at which this thing fires, plus of course it has a massive magazine, you will get your signature skill back pretty quickly with this, so that's nice to have. I would probably consider rolling out sustained for something more useful, and you of course then have hurried, which actually can be pretty good, especially if you are using this specifically with the intent of getting your signature skill back, then skilled plus hurried could actually be a pretty nice combination. So if you're rank 40, consider this, could actually be good, just simply having it in your inventory. Again, not necessarily as a primary weapon that you use all the time, more as a kind of, I've got it in my bag in case I need it. And as for the other weapon, you have a G36 Enhanced. This has Adept, Self-Preserved, and Focused. So the outlier here for me would personally be Adept. Again, as mentioned, I like Self-Preserved. Focused is one of those ones where, generally speaking, you don't get use out of it simply because you're more inclined to use your skills. The only time you can get use out of it is, or at least the only time I've found use out of it, is with my build where I have Caduceus, Alpha Bridge, and I've actually got my skills off cooldown before they've actually finished, so I'm in a position where I can actually benefit from this pretty well. But generally speaking, unless you have a build like I do, then you won't get much use out of this. So with that being said, probably not a recommendation here. So that is it this week. So your kind of take-home recommendations would be potentially the MP5-ST, just for if you're leveling up, maybe you're making a new character, something like that, and the PP19 just as a skilled utility weapon for getting your signature skill back should you need it. Beyond that, there's not really anything else worth calling out this week. So for the time being, that's it. Hopefully we'll have some more news next week on the PTS. Hopefully we'll have a date. Maybe it'll even be live next week. If there is, then of course do expect some videos. But also, just a quick note, I will be pretty busy next week. The new Destiny expansion comes out, and as you guys know, when something new comes out, I do get pretty busy. So there'll be plenty of coverage, don't worry. But just as a heads up, things are going to be quite busy next week. So stay tuned regardless. Either way, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.